Are women simply better with money than men are? 60% of women have fallen victim to money mansplaining. That means blokes telling us how to manage our finances, which is really annoying. More than half of women say they've been interrupted or talked over by a bloke who assumed they simply wouldn't understand a personal money-related issue. But according to a recent survey, over half of women do make regular savings compared to just 46% of blokes. So we're settling this one once and for all. Who's better with money? Is it men or is it women? 0207 862 2222. Do give us a ring. And a plunge in with Cosmo on this one because I know it's not your strong suit, money.
No, every woman in my life has always been much better at managing money, their money, than my money, because I don't have any money, so I'm very poor at it. But I don't think it's fair for women. You know, they've always suffered a certain pay gap. So they have less money, but they tend to manage it actually better because they have less of it.
OK, let me ask you something. Obviously, you're a broadcaster of colossal renown. People are interested in your opinions on many matters, films and dating and all kinds of things pertaining to life.
But not money.
But not money. But this phrase, I'm not good with money, I've never been any good with money. Why would you kind of allow almost, a life to roll by and never get better with it? Why would you just always say I'm not good at it?
Some people don't take the sensible option in life. Right. My approach to money is the ostrich, approach to money.
Right.
Keep your head buried, don't look, you'll be all right in the end. Of course, it doesn't work like that. And there are lots of us out there. We get panicked, we get scared of numbers and bills and things like that. So we pretend if we don't deal with it, we don't face it, it will go away. Of course, that's idiotic. I grant you that. So, I wouldn't, by the way, I would never mansplain to a woman about money, because there's nothing I could say.
Or anything.
Or anything.
I'm not sure. Maybe other things, not money. We're going to come to you, Harry, in just a sec. But Penny, you're the same kind of vintage as I'm in terms of... I know this sounds like we're glossing over a whole lifetime, but we saved up, and if we didn't have the money, we didn't buy it. It was kind of as simple as that.
And we certainly didn't. Credit cards were a thing in the future.
Yes.
We didn't have credit cards. You had a checkbook, obviously. And you and I saved until we could do the things we wanted to do with our money.
And if we didn't, we couldn't.
We didn't. But I do think I have an accountant who whenever I speak to her about various things, and after about 5 minutes, she says, "You've gone again. Just stay with me on this." And because the trouble is that I'm afraid I do actually rather depend on her to tell me what I should be doing.
OK, so what are the sort of moments when she's explaining something financial and you start drifting on what?
So the thing is, I understand about things like compound interest. It's why I've generally always saved to buy something. So I understand about compound interest, about so mortgages and that sort of thing. I understand about that.
Yeah.
But it's when they talk about things about if you do this, then you will save 10% more than if you do this when you're doing that with an ISA, although you could actually offset the ISA with something else. And at that point, I suddenly think, God, did I get enough carrots in for my lunch? And she notices me drifting off and goes, shall I just tell you what the best option? Say, OK, well, just lay them out really simply and say, you've got this one, and this one. And then I say, but which one is best? And she said, well, it depends how you think that you're going to be needing it later. And I go, I don't know how I'm going to be needing it later. But that's the problem with finance, is that there are so many options.
Let's bring Harry in. I mean, I know what I have done. And I know this is a generalisation, but I think I've done what lots of women do, which is be incredibly risk averse.
Yes,
I have been, careful, and I've lived as if I've got my rent in one biscuit tin, my money for fuel in another biscuit tin, almost regardless of whether I am actually earning any money or I'm not really earning money. I've behaved as if I'm hoarding for the very last moment because I've been scared, is the truth. Scared. Scared to say, oh, yeah, let's risk it on this high investment yield thingamabob, which I don't really understand. Exactly. And I'm scared of losing it, having earned it. So I've been a scaredy cat. I know that.
Well, I think you kind of don't want to feel like, look, there's one way to do finance and that it has to be, I save all my life. Because when you look at some of the richest people in the world, they're in, millions, billions of debt. And that is how they essentially make money. They leverage that. At the same time, there's very, smart people who've saved all their life and end up with not much at the end of it because they've been too almost miserly with this. And so you've got this kind of risk aversion and you've just got, understanding. And so I'm sure you, Penny, are understanding 85% of your money, and that's what matters.
no.
That's
I'm
what
not
you
sure I
No,
can.
no, no.
It's
He's just being
85%.
charming.
I tell you what
I
we'll
think
do.
I think
We'll go to
Vanessa and I
Julia.
are
She's in Birmingham. She's got a view about women and men managing money. Julia, thanks so much for calling. What do you think about this one?
I think it all depends on your age and how you were brought up. I mean, my parents were very strict with me, very, very strict. It just depends on your lifestyle as well.
When you say strict, what do you mean? You mean in terms of pocket money or in terms of saving
Yes.
or what? All of those
Pocket
things.
money and saving, definitely. Definitely. I was a child of the 60s.
Me too. And so do you think that has stood you in good stead for the future, that you've at least had to be responsible, had to know what you're doing?
Definitely.
And have you got lots of money now? You see, we don't know whether you're sitting on a pile of money, you're sitting there counting out your gold coins, or whether you haven't really got any money at all. We don't know.
No.
But I'm wondering whether you're in debt or not.
No, I'm not in debt, no.
And you think that's the legacy of your parents, sort of teaching you to be upstanding and rigorous with your money?
Definitely.
Are there things
Definitely.
you wish you'd known about money that you don't know, like stocks and shares, which to me are completely terrifying and I've never even touched in my life?
I'm in the same situation as you. I don't know anything about stocks and shares whatsoever.
See, Julia, I don't know about you, but I was, many years ago, I was working on talk radio, and there was a chap there who was saying he'd invested a little bit in this new thing called Bitcoin.
Oh, gosh.
No, I tell you what, he'd put £1,000 into Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And he sold it for about sort of, I don't know, £20,000.
Yeah.
And if only I had had a couple of Bitcoin, but of course, you know, like you, risk averse. Ooh, what is this weird thing called Bitcoin? It's not even a proper currency. And then I kind of think, I don't know whether you think this, Julia, the opportunity that I could have had there, I could have been rolling in dosh now. I could have been, honestly, I could be wall to wall just going, come to my yacht, come and visit.
But Cosmo, can't we all say that if only you'd put down something on a small, crumbling house in this crumbling road, now you'd be sitting on a property end. But don't we all think that?
Yeah, I grew up with that. My mother, we bought a house in Islington, which was like, I don't know, £14,000 that later became worth a lot of money. And my mother begged my father to buy another house that was going there as an investment. He said, investment? Who invests in houses? And, that house was sold for like £6 million.
Wow.
So, we all have stories of the one that got away.
Absolutely.
Would you do Bitcoin, though?
Well, see, Bitcoin is any kind of crypto, it's a really risky investment. It is, to all intents and purposes, a gamble. I'd say that people aren't necessarily risky enough, and particularly women. So there is a big gap between women and men in terms of investors. So there's 10 million men who invest and something like 6.7 million women who invest. And it doesn't have to be on Bitcoin. It could be investing on things like, shares in Tesco or shares in IBM, which are just going to be ticking away, earning a bit of money and increasing how much money you have at the end of the day.
There's one question here. What do we mean by better at managing money? Is the person that saves every penny better than the person you can have more fun with, who occasionally has a splash out and maybe is a little excessive here and there, than the person who's got every penny in the accountancy chart perfectly aligned? That's the quality of life. We've got to bring this into the thing, don't we?
Yes, I think we do.
I think so. I think there's a certain amount of this which is just your simple maths and tech literacy. And that is a real big problem with the gender gap. The UK is better than most countries, but there is this gap that exists where women just aren't as confident on average with numbers and aren't as confident on average with tech. That's not for everybody, right? But that's something we can fix. So we can just go into schools and be saying, look, we need to be making sure that people leave school, they know what compound interest is, they know the different risks between a mutual fund and investing in a single stock. And when you survey people, they just don't know that information as much as they should.
Totally lost me with mutual fund and single stock. I don't know about you. Did you understand that?
Single stock is when you don't put any onions in.
Yes. Yes.
Entirely carrots.
What is that? I know exactly what you said. I started totally zoning out. It's my programme. I better pay attention. I'm on television. Can't suddenly start thinking about whether I'm going to defrost the freezer or not, just when he says compound interest and whatever that other stuff is. We asked you at home, who's better with money? Is it men or is it women? And 57% of you agree with the survey. They think women are better with money. 43% think that men are better with money. And Harry, the good thing about you is that you've got some actual advice for people here. If we think, like Cosmo, maybe we should have been a bit more on top of it, can we rectify the situation?
Oh, completely. And I would say the kind of urgency for people who know that there's a problem with their finances, they've got all these comings and goings. Maybe they've got a situation where their partner understands this stuff and they don't. And it's all about knowing where you are, knowing what's going in, going out. You don't need to fix it yet. You just need to know it. And so if you think about like an A&E, someone comes in on an ambulance, they've got to know, let's get these things in priority. Are they bleeding out? Are they breathing? Or do they have a stubbed toe? And when you are a financial, you're looking at your finances, you've got to look at what is your bleeding. What is that bleeding out that you've got? And for a lot of people, that's going to be debt.
Yes.
So the first step for most people is just going, who do I owe money to and how much is this costing me? Don't worry about your mortgage because that is a regular payment with a low interest rate. But if you've got loads of credit cards with loads of money, that should be your number one thing to go, how much is this costing me and how can I fix it? And then you can look at your ingoings and your outgoings and prioritise those, starting with your big expensive purchases and then going down to the less essential things and saving where you can.
And one crucial thing I think that we really need to know is sometimes when people are in debt, they think that if they contact the company or the credit card company or the fuel company, that they'll be sort of outed and named and shamed, and then they'll be considered a bad debt, and it's going to be hard for them in the future. They won't get credit, that kind of a thing. So they keep stum because they're scared.
Ostrich.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Or they hide all their bills in the kitchen drawer and they hope that they'll never catch up with them. What should they do?
I think talking to people is the first step. So that could be just people that you know, another mum down at the school gates. It could be your partner, having that conversation. But then also, if you've got a mountain of debt, talking to organisations like Step Change, the National Debt Line.
Yeah, the ones that don't charge you.
They don't charge you and they will guide you through. They can point you in the right direction.
But what about your credit rating, though? Wouldn't your credit rating suffer if you actually then went and actually tried to sort out a new way of actually paying back, for example, if it's a debt and it's quite big, and then you try and
consolidate it,
renegotiate or whatever.
It should be improving your credit rating, because the thing that's really going to damage your credit rating is not paying on time.
Exactly.
Right?
That's the crucial
repayments.
message. The hiding in the drawer doesn't work, and much better to say, I'm struggling, help me out here, what can we do? And use one of the free facilities to try to consolidate and find a way of paying back. Thank you, Harry.
Absolutely
Always
right.
a pleasure.